Hey guys, my name is Dan, and this is Stout Gaming. This week in the VBA, we have Week 6, where I, the Alexandria Arcanines, will be playing the Fuchsia City Royals. This is a pretty important week for me because with a win, I should be able to lock up a playoff spot with 4 weeks left. So I'm going to be really looking for the big win this week, and I know for Popos, the coach of the Fuchsia City Royals, I'll link his channel below, it's a big week for him as well, because he's currently sitting at 0-5 and needs to win this week to avoid elimination from the playoffs. So this is a pretty big week for both of us. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and look into the teams. So I'm going to start by looking up at Popos' team. If he wants to get Trick Room up, he can get it up, because Porygon 2 and Indeedee, there's no way to stop it. I can't stop Trick Room if that's what he wants to do with that set. However, if he sets Trick Room up, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing for me, and we'll go into the whys later. But what I expect to see from his team is the Indeedee and the Machamp, because Machamp is his kill leader and one of the few physical attackers on his team when my team is very specially bulky, so I do think the Machamp needs to come. And then I think Chansey Shuckle is also very likely to come. I do think this is a very favorable team matchup for me, so he needs to find a way to beat me in an unorthodox way, and I think Chansey Shuckle is the chance for him to attack from a different angle that could take me in a game or two. Now on the Might See, this is where we get into some interesting options. The Porygon 2 I would expect to come most weeks, but against me, I don't actually know if he wants to set Trick Room, because I have Glastrier, so I have a great Trick Room option just from that one Pokemon. So setting Trick Room might actually be beneficial for me, depending on what I end up bringing. The Charizard generally would give him a good out of Trick Room option if he decides to go that way, but it's very weak against Tapu Koko, Goodra, and Mantine. The Slowking could give him a decent option that could function either in or out of Trick Room, depending on what he wants to do with it, but I don't know if I'm completely sold on it yet. The Aromatisse, if he does go for Trick Room, could be his, could be an alternate setter or one of his better Trick Room sweepers. The Guzzlord has the potential to attack on the physical or special spectrum. The Ribombee can do speed swap shenanigans and has a decent support move pool. So I think any of those are potentially able to come. What I don't think is coming is the Kingler this week. Looking at my team, Kingler doesn't match up well into anything on my team except maybe Frostmoth. So I don't think the Kingler has a good role this week. It's not the matchup for it. So on my team, I'm definitely bringing my own Trick Room mode, because if we're going to be getting into Trick Room, Glastrier and Bronzong together just are fantastic and will give me an advantage inside Trick Room. And then I wanted to bring Coco Thievel for a pretty specific reason. The physical attackers that might come on his side are Guzzlord and Machamp, and Tapu Koko with Dazzling Gleam beats both of those. And then if everything else is a special attacker, except for the Chansey shenanigans, Snarl from the Thievel really starts to shut it down. So I think it's a pretty decent week for a Coco Thievel lead with a Trick Room in the back, but then we've got to figure out what the other options we're going to bring are. Venucole, again, very possible, but given that he gets a guaranteed Trick Room and has a Charizard, maybe not the week for it. Tangela, always a solid option. Goodra with Assault Vest. His team doesn't really touch that outside of the Machamp on the physical spectrum and the Guzzlord. So I think that could actually work really well next to Tapu Koko, a very specially bulky Goodra. And the special bulk from Mantine also has the potential to work really well this week, again, because he's got so many special attackers. The Frostmoth and the Behemoth, they didn't just really fit well with anything this week. The speed tiers are a little weird, considering he's going to have more dictation over what speed we're playing than I will. So they're likely to be riding the bench this week. But let's go ahead and take a look at the team. So first off, the Bronzong that sets Trick Room, pretty obvious. Body Press Iron Defense is a way that I could hit Chansey if the Chansey comes out. Rock Tomb to trigger Weakness Policy. Colberberry because I don't want it to eat a massive attack from a Guzzlord before I've got the chance to attack back into it. Yeah, a pretty standard set. Glastrier with Weakness Policy, we're running 4 attacks on it this week. Smart Strike was a different move at one point, but it can't miss, so if we are getting minimized Chansey shenanigans, then Smart Strike allows me to always hit it, so that's something that I did consider. But Close Combat, Icicle Crash, and High Horsepower just provide really good coverage. It's Weakness Policy, it's a strong Dynamax option. I really don't need to explain Glastrier. Tapu Koko, I'm going with Specs Koko this week. The speed is not to outspeed Ribombee, but to outspeed the next fastest thing on his team, which I believe is Charizard. So if he brings Ribombee, he will have a speed advantage over the Koko. Dazzling Gleam hits both of his physical attackers, and Specs Koko with Gleam is really what I wanted. Volt Switch would allow me to reposition it pretty easily if that's what I need to do. Thunderbolt picks up the KO on most Charizards that don't max, and I don't think he wants to max Charizard in this set, and it's a 2-hit KO on basically every max Charizard. So that's decent. And then Electro Web as a spread electric type, that also could lower speed if he is going with a fast mode that I don't expect. He could outspeed Koko for 1 turn, but then Electro Web lets me retake speed control. To pair it, I'm going to go with an Unburdened Thievul with Electric Seed. Pretty standard sets. The defensive set is actually interesting. It does survive any max move from Machamp, which is nice. I didn't need speed investment to outspeed Ribombee after Unburdened, so Thievul is going to be the fastest thing on the field. Taunt gives me some interesting options. Snarl, because so much of his team is special. Foul Play, in case there is a physical attacker that I'm not expecting. Mainly, this is a decent answer for Kingdra. And then Fake Tears, paired with the Specs Koko, is going to deal insane amounts of damage to whatever I want it to deal damage to. So then the options we are going to have as the tertiary mode include the Assault Vest Goodra. This one's a physical Goodra because it gets access to Superpower to potentially deal with Chansey shenanigans. And then Stomping Tantrum, Rock Slide, and Breaking Swipe are a pretty self-explanatory set of coverage moves on the set. And Life Orb Bantine with Haze. So if I do end up in an endgame with Chansey that is at +6 evasion, I can just haze it away, and it will still have the defense boosts from Guard Swap, but I'll be able to hit it, and if you can hit it, you can kill it. Rules to live by in VGC. But without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into the battle. So right away, looking at his team, it looks like he wants to do a mid-speed to fast mode to me. I don't see his 2 best Trick Room setters in the Porygon and the Aromatisse, and I also don't see the Shuckle Chansey mode, which I sort of hard prepped for. What I do see is the Ribombee for potential speed swaps, which would outspeed the Koko, but he doesn't need to know that. But against his fast mode, Koko Thievul is just going to be really good, and I can bring Trick Room in the back, but it's probably not even super necessary, because Koko Thievul, if he does try to go fast mode, should sweep through a large chunk of the team, which it'll be a nice start to the match. So I do decide in the end to bring the Trick Room in the back. It is probably the correct choice at that point in time. And then we'll see what Popos is going to lock into. A couple things that I notice about his team is that he did bring a decent chunk of physical attackers, because I believe he runs Physical Guzzlord on this set, along with the Machamp. On top of that, Charizard is a really interesting bring. It's really interesting the way it fits on his team overall. Because it seems out of place on what is almost the hardest Trick Room team in the league, and it's not the Gigantamax version for the residual damage, so I'm very interested to see what he does with it if he brings it. So here we've got the Charizard and the Indeedee, which leaves me a couple options. The first is probably the most obvious option, which is to Snarl into both of them with Thievul. That seems kind of like a no-brainer. We got two special attackers in front of a Thievul on the field, and then I have to decide what to do with Koko. Because in front of the Tapu Koko, there's a very good chance that Charizard switches out. And if it switches out and I can catch something like Guzzlord or Machamp on a switch-in, trying to eat a Thunderbolt and catch him with a Dazzling Gleam, that would do a substantial amount of damage. But if I don't want to risk it, I can always click Thunderbolt, but it'll be redirected into the Indeedee if Charizard stays out. So, assuming he thinks Charizard is safe, I figured the best play here is actually to just go for the Electro Web spread. It'll slow down his fast mode here, and I'll be snarling it, so I can just snarl this team into oblivion and not really worry that much about overall damage being done. So he does go for the max on, I assume, the Charizard at this point, and I have that confirmed for me pretty shortly. If this were max Indeedee, I know I was about to die a horrible, painful death, because I have no prep for that at all. But this Charizard's going to eat a Snarl, go to -1, eat an Electric Web, go to -1 speed, and the Indeedee's pretty invalidated with the spread attacks here. And that's basically exactly what happens here. I do get a crit, which is nice. That actually does make it so it's more likely for me to pick up a KO on turn 2, which isn't a guarantee, because I'm not running, you know, a good amount of special attack investment on the Thievul. Specs Koko does a lot of damage. That is very nice damage. At -1, Charizard doesn't come close to the KO, and if I can get a Snarl off, he's not going to KO next turn. So Snarl is, again, very safe. And I'm locked into Electro Web, but I could also switch out here, which wouldn't be the worst play to try and reset it, assuming he's got Fairy Weakness in the back. Reset my Choice Lock. But I think the safest play is to just go for the double KO, hit whatever's coming in. And we do see the Guzzlord, so I'm going to want to get Koko into a better position at some point. At this point, the Guzzlord could still be special, and if that's the case, this is another very good turn for me, especially since I'm able to pick up the KO on the Charizard. I'm not sure if I needed rolls or anything for that, but potentially did. So, fairly fortunate on my end, but at -2, it wasn't going to be doing a substantial amount of damage anyway. And then we see what he's got in the back, which is the Machamp. Now, the Machamp in the back is interesting, because I really want to click Dazzling Gleam, but Koko is locked into Electro Web. So what is the play here? Probably just switch out the Koko, let Thievul or whatever I switch in die, bring it back in, and click Dazzling Gleam, GG. Fake Tears also isn't a bad option. If I'm able to start getting Fake Tears up with the Thievul, then I know that it's going to be a KO with the Dazzling Gleam. So Bronzong joins Thievul as Sacrificial Lambs this turn. I just want one of them to die. It doesn't really matter which one. And Thievul goes down. Perfect. So now I get a free Koko switch in a favorable position, and this is all good things for me at this point. High horsepower, I'm okay with that. He sees that I'm not levitate, but I also see that he's physical and it doesn't do a lot of damage. At this point, Koko just pretty cleanly is able to pick up 2 KOs. I'll end up maxing it after I get 1 KO to pick up the second one, guaranteed. It's not... This battle is over at this point. There's nothing he has on the field that can compete with Specs Koko. And even if there is, this Bronzong is Iron Defense Body Press set, which will do decently against 2 physical mods here. So, I can't remember if I click Iron Defense or just go for the immediate body press damage, because I do have high physical defense investment on it as well. So, he switches the Machamp out, gets back in the Indeedee. Indeedee has a bad day. Psychic Terrain doesn't matter because I've got Specs Dazzling Gleam coming out. Clean double. And Machamp's got to come back out in front of a Tapu Koko. He does see that I have Body Press, so he can probably infer that I am the Iron Defense Body Press set, which is good for him. But here, I try to figure out if it's safer to Max Starfall or to Dazzling Gleam the Specs. And I think Max, because if for some godforsaken reason this thing is able to survive a hit, I'd rather not die back and then rely on Glastrier not dying. Like, there's a world where I lose. If I play poorly, he gets rolls and has insane calcs that I didn't know Machamp got. So this just minimizes the world in which I lose. Even though Big Coco probably isn't necessary here. But Coco picks up clean 4 kills this game, and we're looking ahead to game 2. Now, based on what I saw game 1, I don't think he has Trick Room, and if he does have Trick Room, it could potentially throw me off, because he brought a decent Glastrier matchup, because Charizard out of Trick Room is a decent Glastrier matchup, and Machamp is also a decent Glastrier matchup. But my thoughts this game is I want him to prove he can beat Thievul Coco before I go deviating from this plan, because it just sort of rolled him last game, so that's what I gotta go with again. So he has locked in pretty quickly. He's pretty confident in what his plan is this game. And I am looking forward to seeing it as well. So Popos here comes out with a pretty interesting lead. The Machamp and the Slowking. Now, I know Slowking carries Trick Room, but I don't think on his team he wants Trick Room. So here, I think the best move is to protect against potential Machamp KO into the Coco, is to just Gleam and Fake Tears. I know the Machamp carries Protect, but this seems like an odd place to use it, although it isn't burned yet, and it's obviously the Guts variant, which Thievul does not survive a max attack from the Guts variant. It survives from other variants. So that Protect is annoying. Dazzling Gleam is not going to do a lot here. And then I see Trick Room go up, and I'm in danger. I am in much, much danger here, because I am out of position. I don't have a free switch in. Technically, I could probably switch the Glastrier into the Coco spot, but it still likely takes a chunk of damage, and I'm going to have to max the Glastrier in this game. So, a double sack here might actually be my opportune play, which is what I go for. Waste a turn of max, get a multi-sack off, let him start picking up KOs, and then try and clutch it out with Glastrier under Trick Room. So, the Max Machamp itself is pretty threatening for a lot of my team, because I believe it can have Poison Jab, it has a fighting type move obviously, and that really hurt. I'm not gonna lie, it's not looking good for me this game. Max Hailstorm is interesting. I don't know exactly what it's for. I guess it hits Goodra very hard, which is good for him, because I do have Goodra, not this game, but in the set. I went for the Foul Play here to see if I could pick up a KO on the Slowking, because Foul Play into Max Machamp, even though it does have very high base attack, wasn't going to do a lot of damage compared to what I was going to need. I'm 2-hit KOing this thing with the horse, and that's my plan. So, we gotta see if Glastrier, in a really bad situation against a max option that is a bad matchup for it, next to a really fast, really frail Pokemon in Trick Room, is able to clutch something out almost single-handedly by itself. So first things first, we gotta hit the Machamp hard and see what we can do to it. Just in case it is a bulkier Machamp, I do decide to launch a Foul Play into it. Not that this thing's gonna launch an attack, but if it does launch an attack and it is bulky Machamp, then it will be really good for me to get a little bit of extra chip with this Foul Play out. Now I think it might actually launch an attack because the Slowking switched out. And we've got Glastrier getting ready to do horsey things. So Max Hailstorm comes out, Glastrier chunks the Machamp, and I do not need the chip damage from Foul Play. Max Knuckle comes out. Luckily for him, it KOs Thievul instead of KOing, or instead of hurting the Glastrier, because if it went into Glastrier and I got a weakness policy boost off of that, it would not be good for him. And then here I've got to start predicting pretty perfectly because I am relatively behind this game. He has shown a willingness to protect the Machamp. If I think that's going to happen, then attacking into the Guzzlord is the play here to protect the Bronzong. If I don't think that's what's going to happen, attacking into the Machamp is obviously the correct play to reduce damage that a +1 burned Machamp does. And then either Iron Defensing or Body Pressing could be the right play here, depending on what I think he has in the back. The worst case scenario for me is Charizard in the back, along with the Slowking. So he switches out Guzzlord. So I made the right play here to Iron Defense, and then to just pick up the KO with the Glastrier. So this is one turn for me. So I've got a shot. I have one more turn of Max left with the Horsey, and then we can see where we can go from there. So we'll see what comes on in. I'll be picking up a free KO. And if he has Charizard in the back, I have to play this differently than if he doesn't have Charizard in the back, in an effort to potentially keep Glastrier alive when Trick Room ends, because Glastrier can't pick up all these KOs in Trick Room. So I will need to get one attack out, not in Trick Room. So he does switch in the Charizard. So my thoughts here are, I can attack straight into the Charizard, believing that it will protect, and I can break through it with Rock Tomb, giving me a weakness policy boost to just overpower the slot. Or, if I think the Charizard will switch out, I can max ground into the Slowking slot, get +1 special defense, and then when the Charizard switches back in, it is not going to be able to KO the Glastrier. And here I do not make the right call, so I am pretty much out of options this game. The max ground there with this Rock Tomb bonus would have been enough, but unfortunately that's not the direction that I go with it. But the Glastrier is just very strong at this point. Just Trick Room will be ending, and Max will be ending at the same time. So Guzzlord goes down, and the question is, what do I do next turn? He doesn't know that I don't have Protect, because I dropped the Protect for the Steel-type move that never misses, Smart Strike. So if he predicts a Protect and tries to stop the Bronzong from setting up Trick Room, this is good for me because I'm going to be launching an attack into Charizard. Like, I have to at this point in time. But if he doesn't predict the Protect and attacks into Glastrier twice, I basically go down because I did not get the +1 bonus from Max Quake. So this turn really just comes down to a level of prediction on his part. The game is out of my hands. I can't... Oh yeah, I was making sure that I had Heat Proof here because I know Bronzong will survive a turn. I could honestly see Rock Tomb being the play this turn. It doesn't really feel good, but I think Trick Room is smarter because if he protects for some reason, then we have the same dilemma unless I have Trick Room up. So the Heat Wave comes out, and we've got to see what this Slowking does. If the Slowking attacks into the Glastrier, he will likely pick up this game, and it does. Glastrier goes down. And we're relying on Bronzong into Trick Room. It'll do decent damage, but not great damage. I'm still obviously going to try to pick up this game, but this is likely an L for me. So here I decide to go for the Rock Tomb onto the Charizard, even though I don't have any physical attack investment, because I want to minimize the damage that it does. Charizard is just not strong, generally speaking. Rock Tomb goes into Protect. Trick Room gets reversed. So yeah, it's pretty bad for me at this point in time. I don't see a way out unless he just decides to spam Protect for no reason other than throwing the game. So the Heat Wave will connect. Bronzong clutches it out with a little HP, and then I do force the reveal on the last move, but Rock Tomb misses. It would have been nice to know that calc. But I do force the reveal on Expanding Force, which is a little scary next to Indeedee, but Thievul really covers that lead well, and Popos picks up Game 2. So, moving into Game 3, I need to re-examine what my strategy is here, because I see now that he has a way to beat the fast mode. Like, he's proven that he has a way to beat it, so I need to be able to pivot out of it. I am very tempted with Goodra in this set, because Goodra does well into literally everything on his team except Machamp, but I have a feeling that he Dynamaxes Machamp, so Mantine, in that case, is the better option. I wasn't sure if I would be bringing Mantine outside of Chansey matchups, but it does seem like it could be good here. Trick Room also seems good, but if he's going to set the Trick Room, then the Bronzong is rather superfluous. And again, I'm looking between Mantine and Goodra for this last spot. And if he sets the Trick Room, I'll get the Glastrier in for a couple turns, let Trick Room expire, and then go back to playing a relatively quick-paced game. So, as Game 3 starts, he's shown his hand on the style that he likes to play early in the game. And I see the exact same leads, and I'm going to be handling it differently because I know that he wants Trick Room up in front of this lead with that combo. So what's he going to do? Protect the Machamp because he always protects to get the Machamp burned, and he doesn't want Machamp to get hit this turn. And he'll just go for the Trick Room with the Slowking. So, predicting that's what he goes for, I'm going to Fake Tears the Slowking and Volt Switch it because that'll pick up the KO in Electric Terrain with Specs. We're just going straight for the KO, ignore the Machamp. If it close combats the Thievul, so be it. But we're gonna get position better. Machamp protects. Absolutely brilliant start. Fake Tears comes out. Beautiful. Slowking gets weaker. And Volt Switch comes, Slowking dies. First turn went about as well as it could have for me. So now we have a decision. Do we bring out Glastrier in front of Machamp without Trick Room? Absolutely not. We bring out the Mantine. Now, Mantine is interesting. It's not always going to be the fastest thing in this matchup, but when it is, it's going to be very, very fast. Because as soon as Rain gets set, it's the fastest thing in the matchup. And the Indeedee comes out. So, Max Airstream into Machamp is what I want to do at some point. Because Life Orb, Mantine, Max Airstream, it's gonna hurt. But that's not really an option because this NDD is going to use Follow Me, so instead of worrying about that, I will set the rain, power up my water type attacks for later, and still give me the speed boost because of Swift Swim. So the ideal turn here is a max from Popos, and then a Follow Me, which is the prediction that I make going into this turn. Because the moves that I've seen from the Machamp aren't super threatening to Mantine, even though its physical defense isn't great. So I sort of just want to ignore it and attack around it. Although because it is Guts, it will pick up the KO on Thievul if it wants to this turn. And we see the max from the Machamp. Now all we need to see is the Follow Me, and we'll be having a good turn. Follow Me comes out, and we get a major attack into this Indeedee, because Fake Tears, Max Geyser, Stab, Life Orb, Max Special Attack Mantine. Mantine is really a glue piece on this team that isn't talked about as one of my best mons this season, but it just makes so many different things possible and gives me an extra depth of potential attacking power. Indeedee drops like a sack of potatoes. We get a Max Knuckle. I will go down with the Thievul. Thievul dies. Machamp gets boosted. Doesn't really matter because Machamp is picking up KOs on anything that comes out that it wants to pick up the KO on, because I believe the Max Ice will always pick up the KO on Tapu Koko, even with just the burn, not even the +1. So here we've got predictions to make. If I think the Charizard's going to protect, I obviously don't want to attack into it with the Koko. But attacking into it with the Mantine is fine. So what I believe happens here is that he will attack with the Machamp and protect with the Charizard. I will hit through the protect, weaken it, and I will deal a chunk of damage to the Machamp. Machamp will take out the Koko, and then I'll get a switch into Glastrier, where I'm not really going to have to worry about anything because Mantine will clean up the Machamp and then clean up the Charizard, because Charizard's not going to threaten the Glastrier. The Charizard survives. Dazzling Gleam comes out. Charizard protected, so I'm gliding Thunderbolt into it. Machamp takes a chunk. It's now in range of a Max Airstream. Hailstorm comes out, picks up the KO here, and also makes me slower than the Charizard, but that's not hugely important unless I was planning on picking up the Charizard KO next turn, which I don't really need to. And then I have free reign with Mantine on a field where Mantine's good. Now, the way I lose this is if he max guards and then Air Slash misses. That's it. That's the way. Because we know that the Charizard doesn't pick up the KO here with Heat Wave on the Glastrier, so Glastrier KOs Charizard back. I guess I could also miss Icicle Crash, but even then I don't think it's a huge deal because the Mantine matchup with the Machamp is more important than the Mantine Charizard matchup, because Mantine always wins that. So the Charizard sends out an Air Slash, which seemed like an odd choice there. Maybe going for flinches, I'm not exactly sure what. Don't see a protect. I'm able to pick it up. And it looks like I'm gonna clutch out this game because there's not really anything Charizard can do, even if Glastrier misses here. It just dies to Scald next turn. Icicle Crash comes out, and I pick up the KO, and it's good games to Popos. Lost my first game in the VBA this week. He had a really cool team. I liked what he did with it a lot. Having a lot of fun in this league, and I will see you guys next week.